It's Sunday, August 11th here at Oakland International Airport. Here with my brother from Hong Kong, sister-in-law, and the nephew. They've been in town for about 3 weeks. They got about another week before they head back to Hong Kong. And it's a good opportunity to take them to Las Vegas. And yeah, a pretty budget-friendly flight that we're taking here. We're actually flying Spirit Airlines out of Oakland International. It's about half the price as what it would have cost going out of SFO. Each of us are paying about a $70 round trip, so kind of hard to beat that price. So yeah, in that last video, it was just a brief poker session at Lucky Chances. Didn't touch on too much else other than the poker for that particular week. So I'm gonna take this moment now to touch on a few things that also happened throughout that week. For starters, I got to celebrate my birthday with the entire family on Friday, August 2nd. And we went to a restaurant called, I think, the Star or A Star in the Park in Alameda. It's a deep dish Chicago pizza style place. So the venue is a pretty nice spot because it used to actually be a bank, and there's a lot of locations within the restaurant that they still kept that look like a bank, and so it makes for some pretty nice decor. Following that, had a chance to eat some birthday cake. Got an ice cream cake from Mitchell's Ice Cream. For those of you that have had Mitchell's Ice Cream or are from the Bay Area, you guys know that this is probably some of the best ice cream in the Bay Area. So if you haven't had a chance to try it and you're someone who's visiting or you live here and you want some good ice cream, definitely check out Mitchell's Ice Cream. They've got a variety of different flavors. So yeah, this was a special birthday for me, particularly because it's the first time getting my entire family together for my birthday. My brother from Hong Kong moved over to Hong Kong 20 plus years ago. So having him in town at this time of year with my other brother and my parents was a really awesome and, you know, a moment that I'm going to cherish. So I got to spend some quality time doing some random things. And my brother from Alameda, Steve, he's pretty into Star Wars, and my brother from Hong Kong is really into a type of martial arts involving bow staffs. And he actually found some pretty unique bow staffs from a website that we ended up purchasing, and they're actually light up sticks. So the two of them, Steve and Mike, both have some background in martial arts, and that's, I guess, a little bit stereotypical given that we're Asian. But yeah, it was really cool to have them do some fun things with those bow staffs. The Bow Staff Brothers. And for this Vegas trip, it's going to be mostly centered around the family, in particular the nephew. We're going to be going to a variety of different kid-related type activities. It's going to be a pretty quick trip to Vegas, just 2 nights, and I'm going to try to fit in some poker during the evening. All right, it's Monday at about 3:20 in the morning. Just wrapping up a session here at the Encore Wynn poker room. Put in about a 5-hour session here. And the game was average in a slightly positive way, I guess. There wasn't a lot of action to be had, but the players were playing pretty straightforward, so that made it pretty easy to navigate. With that said, the game was pretty uninteresting. There are a few hands to share, of course, but the interesting hands are pretty scarce to find. Just wanted to preface that before we dive into the hands. In this first hand, there's an under the gun limp. I'm on the button with 10-9 of clubs, and I put in a raise to $25. Big blind and under the gun call. We go through ways to a flop of 7-6-5 rainbow with 1 club. The big blind leads right away for $35. The other player folds, and he's got about $350 back here. I've got a gutter ball and some backdoor clubs, so I make the call. Turn is a 4 of diamonds, and he checks. Despite having a 9 and a 10 in my hand, giving me card combos where I can rep an 8 some percentage of the time, he generally has more 8s than I do in this particular spot. So given that he had the lead in the hand as well, I'm happy to just check it back and take a free river. The river brings in 8 of spades, so make the absolute nuts here. He doesn't stop betting, puts out a bet of $40, and time to go for some value here, of course. I raise it to $200, and he thinks about it for quite a while before making the call. It's nice to drag in a pot after a very good run out. In this next hand, there's a low jack limp. I'm on the high jack with pocket 9s, and I raise it to $25. Small blind and the low jack make the call. We go through raise to a flop of ace 9-8 rainbow, flat middle set on this board. Checks to me, and I put out a bet of $40 and only the low jack call. The turn comes a 5 of diamonds, bringing in a backdoor flush draw, and sort of an interesting card because it completes one of the 2 most obvious straight draws, being 6-7, the other being jack 10. And when he checks it though, I think I can still bet for value here. Put out another bet of $105. He thinks it through for a little bit and he puts in a raise. He raises it to $310. I've got another $1,000 back, and I think it's a pretty straightforward call here. I don't want to over rep my hand, so that's what I do. I make the call. The river comes in ace of hearts, so I fill up here. He checks it rather quickly this time. Definitely gonna go for a bet here. It's just a matter of sizing. Can go large and polarized because I think he's either got a strong hand like an ace perhaps, or the straight as I had mentioned, or he has nothing like a busted straight or flush draw. That said, in trying to target the value portion of his range, I actually settle on a quarter-sized bet. I put out a bet of $190 and he makes the snap fold. So I assume he didn't have anything there because I think if he did, he probably would have thought it through for a little bit before mucking it. So take this one down. In this next hand, there's a middle position raise to $15, cut off in small blind call. I'm in the big blind with 9-10 of spades. I make the call as well. We go 4 ways to a flop of king 8-6 rainbow with 1 spade. Checks the middle position. He puts out a bet of $30. Gutter to the nuts here with backdoor spades, so I make the call. The turn comes a 6 of spades, so I pick up the backdoor equity. I check it. He puts out a bet of $30 again. Pretty good price, so I make the call. The river comes a deuce of hearts, so I brick out, check it once more. He puts out a $45 bet, make the quick fold. And yeah, I guess you can make the arguments for maybe playing a little bit more aggressively, but at the price that he was putting out there, I think it was okay to just take a call line and try to realize, but don't realize here and lose this one. All right, last semi-interesting hand to note. There's a straddle pot, early position limps. I'm in middle position with pocket queens, and I raise it to $50, and only the limper makes the call. We go heads up to a flop of 10-6-4 rainbow. He checks it. Good flop to c-bet here, so I put out a bet of $60. He makes the call. The turn comes in ace of diamonds, not the best card here. And when he checks it, I decide to check it back. The river comes in 8 of spades. He checks it once more, and I think it through for a little bit. I decide to go for a pretty thin value bet. I put out a bet of $50, hoping to target a hand like jack 10 or queen 10. He doesn't think too long and he makes the call. Turns out to be too thin though, because he shows ace queen offsuit for the turn pair of aces, so he takes this one down. I was in the game for $900, and at my peak I was up 550 or so, but after a pretty hot start, just kind of lost little pots here and there, and ultimately cashed out $11.88, so still a nice little profit of $288. So yeah, that wraps things up for this session. I wish there were more interesting spots to share, and yeah, sometimes poker is just that way. It's a lot of uninteresting spots most of the time, and definitely was the case tonight. All right, just closing out another session here at the Wynn at 3 a.m. Played another 4 or 5 hour session, and a little bit more interesting than yesterday, but not in a good way. All right, in this first hand, we're playing 6-handed. There are several limps and it gets to me in the big blind. I've got ace jack of diamonds, and I think it's a good hand to play for a little bit more here, so I raise it to $35. Only one of the early position players makes the call. We go heads up to a flop of 8-7-6 2 diamonds, so good flop for my specific hand here, flopping the nut flush draw, but it's a pretty connected medium/low board. It's gonna favor his range a little bit more than mine, so I check it over to him and he puts out a bet, a rather large one of $100. I think only one option here, which is to call, so that's what I do. The turn comes an ace of spades, so pretty interesting card. I pick up some value now to go with my flush draw, but I decide to check it over to him again. He puts out a bet, another large one of $250. Pretty much the same decision as the flop, I think, so just make the call. The river comes a 6 of spades, and another pretty interesting card again. I check it. He doesn't stop betting again. He puts out a bet of $350. So smaller relative to the size of the pot compared to his flop and turn bets, but looking pretty value heavy in this spot. Yeah, pretty iffy spot here. I think definitely leaning towards a fold because having the ace jack of diamonds in my hand makes it less likely that he has a flush draw himself to be bluffing in this spot. That said, the 6 pairing on the river makes it less likely that it has pocket 6s, so I'm really only afraid of pocket 7s or pocket 8s, I think. You can still have some 4-5s and 9-10s, but yeah, given his sizing, I think it can make sense to be going for value with those hands as well. But he can also have a hand like pocket 9s, 7-9, 8-9 maybe. I think if I were to run the combos, I think he's definitely got more value than bluffs here. But after thinking about it for a while, I just decide to call. And he doesn't turn his hand over immediately, but after a couple seconds, he does turn his hand over and he has 6-8 offsuit. So he rivers the full house and I lose a pretty massive pot here to start this session off. All right, this next hand is against the same player, and shortly after, it's a straddle pot. I'm on the button with pocket 4s. I raise it to $30. The small blind calls, and the aforementioned player in the big blind puts in a 3-bet to $120. I decided to make the call. I'm about 1,000 effective here. I think it's okay to try to set mine in this spot. We go heads up to a flop of ace-6-3, 2 hearts. He checks it. I decide to check back. Turn comes a queen of clubs, and he leads this time for pretty big, $250. Just gotta make the fold here. And he didn't show his hand, but he claims to have ace-king. And yeah, we were playing 5 or 6 handed most of the evening. And this was the only player that was over 100 big blinds deep. So I got into quite a few hands with him, and I was on the wrong end of, I want to say 80 or 90% of those hands. I think I started to push the action a little bit too much. I think I definitely got a little bit frustrated with this particular situation. I think we've all kind of been there with poker where a specific player on the table holds over you for a little bit, and you know, you're trying to make some adjustments to find some profitable spots, but it ends up not working in your favor. And so in this last hand, the aforementioned player has the button straddle on. I'm in the hijack with 10-9 offsuit. Again, probably a little bit frustration leading into this hand, but I decide to raise it to $35 and only he makes the call. We go heads up to a flop of queen 9-8, 2 hearts, a continuation bet for $40 and he makes the call. I decide to bet $150, sides up a little bit relative to the flop. I think I should still have the best hand most of the time. I don't think he has a queen here too often, and it seems like because the board is so dynamic, he should be weighted more towards flush draws and straight draws here. So I think I can effectively bet for value against those hands. He ends up making the call. The river brings a king of spades, so I don't think I can bet it for value this time. And my hand essentially, I think, turns into a bluff catcher. So I decided to check it over to him. He thinks it over for a little while and he checks back. I turn my hand over and he turns over ace-9 offsuit. So out kicks me in this hand and takes another one down. So yeah, that wraps things up for the session. We were playing 5 or 6 handed, but it felt like we were playing heads up and I was on the wrong end of it pretty much every single hand. In the beginning, I ran a little bit bad against this player. And then after that, I think I just compounded it with some really bad play, particularly with the 9-10 offsuit hand. So that wraps things up for the 2 days of poker here at the Wynn. I won $288 yesterday and I lost a little bit over $1,000 today. So a net negative of about $750 to close up the trip. Not the ideal way to finish out the trip, but still happy to have gotten some poker in, particularly at the Wynn Poker Room, which is my favorite poker room in Las Vegas. As always, thanks for tuning in and I'll catch you all on the next one.